Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining the Farmers Truck on this new webinar about funding your mobile market. Um, I want to thank you for your questions. Have you registered for the webinar? We've took all that in consideration, and basically, me and Portia kind of went through and we've picked the top kind of hot topics that we should cover, but definitely there would be some more that we are not covering. So please use the Q&A function at the bottom and ask away, and we'll cover that at the end. Um, do not worry, the webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website at a future date. And like I said, the Q&A is active and our team is monitoring. So if you have any questions, please use that function. So today I'm pretty excited to introduce you Portia Jacobs. Portia and I have been working together on helping programs find potential opportunities for funding, as well as writing these grants. So Portia is the founder and CEO of Saquarius Client Services. And Portia, maybe you can give us a bit of an introduction.
Hi, everyone. I'm Portia Jacobs. Thank you for joining us today. My company, Saquarius, the initiative is to work with small businesses and nonprofits to attain achievable and measurable outcomes, such as funding for community projects, whether that's through grant writing or consulting services. But today we're talking about grant writing and research and how to fund your farmer's truck. So thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Portia. I'm a big fan of her logo, by the way.
Thanks, Fred.
All right, so we'll take a bit of a step back. We'll talk a bit about what the Farmers Truck does, why we're here, why we're trying to do this, and then we'll jump right into the how to find a mobile market. So, Farmers Truck's vision is pretty simple but pretty bold. Fresh, accessible food in every community. And here's kind of our journey on how we got there. So this is me and my co-founder Matt on his farm. Matt was wondering how he could get his product to market, having a challenge to get into the local farmers market, and the big grocery chains are hard to get in general. So we came up with the idea of a mobile market, but we didn't have any money. We had to do this whole thing and try to bootstrap the whole thing with very little money. So we decided, all right, let's buy a used truck. Let's see if this could work in our community. And so we bought this old FedEx truck that we modified ourselves. We took some old piece of metal that we had laying around the farm, repurposed some shelving inside to put outside, and trying to understand how to make a good experience for the shopper, but as well as for the operator, which was us. This is on our first day out. As you can see, the truck changed color. So we wrapped the whole damn thing with, vehicle wrap in the middle of the sun. It took us a long time. These things are basically box of rivets, if you can think about it. And very difficult, but, very rewarding to see a big, bold red truck going around the streets with these big white letters. And this is kind of what it looked like. So we put a lot of energy on making a display that felt like there was an abundance of food because people eat with their eyes. And so that's really important if you want to attract people from afar and they see all these colorful and replenishing shelves. That usually works really well. So basically an overview. We've launched in 2015 our own mobile farmers market, and now we teach others to do the same. First, we designed the most popular mobile market truck in North America, collectively serving around 25,000 families a week. As you can see, programs love the truck. They're a great experience for the shopper, but also for the operator. It makes it easy to use. You get on location, you can pull out the shelving and do all that stuff. And a lot of the operators give their truck a name because it becomes such an intimate part of their program, and they get fond of it. So yeah, people love the truck. All right, so let's talk about funding. So how do you fund a mobile market? So first, we'll talk about the business model, and I'll cover this bit, and for sure you can chime in. But basically, really, there's, the nonprofit side of things is clearly the winner when it comes to finding funding. There's a lot more grants available for nonprofits. Most foundations require you to be 501c3 to donate money and all that stuff. So really, the best vehicle is a nonprofit. as you're if you're a for-profit, there's definitely some avenues for you if you're a small farmer or doing some some of that work that aligns with some of the funders. But there's a lot less, and so it's a bit more challenging. And in Portia, we look for funding for farmers and all kinds, and these are the ones we've struggled the most, right?
That's correct, absolutely. And so, therefore, we will be discussing how important it is to partner with a nonprofit. If you are a for-profit entity, to partnership with nonprofit entities and collaborative efforts in order to secure funding as well.
And that's really a game changer, right? So, oh, should my speak? Everybody can hear me
Yep,
correctly?
can
Yeah.
definitely
Okay.
hear you.
Okay. Perfect. And then the fiscal sponsor is what you were talking about, is really this partnership between a for-profit and nonprofit. And it not only helps with anyways, we'll cover that a little bit later, but basically it helps bolster your application. It helps with, it brings a lot of value to the funder. All right. So let's talk about grant types. So really there's like two main grant types, and then we'll go a bit more granular about the types of grants. There are obviously a lot more types, but really we're going to cover the high level based on your questions. And so I'm going to ask Portia to kind of describe what a government grant is typically, and yeah.
Yeah, certainly. So not all grants are created equal. Government grants tend to be big and competitive, and foundation grants seem to be more flexible. And then we have your corporate grants, which could be a great way to build and foster household partnerships within your community. However, government grants are the typical and most well-known fit for most entities.
I mean, I think that it's three times more funds available, 3 to 4 times more funds available for the government side of things than it is for foundations, right?
That is absolutely correct.
And foundations being less available funding, but being more flexible and usually have a very, targeted need or overarching goal that can be, as long as you meet that with your narrative and all that stuff, it seems to be easier on that front to get the funds.
That's correct. And they have more opportunities for operating costs and project specific support.
So let's talk about a grant that has is specifically capacity building and then the structure around that.
Correct. So a capacity building grant is a grant that allows you to build a project from the ground up, essentially. There are a plethora of those opportunities available, and that is across all of those sectors. But the responsibility and the reporting requirements vary, as well as the eligibility requirements. So not only do you have to meet the requirements of being a nonprofit or a for-profit, there are other criteria such as what your community-based organization offers to the people of your community.
And I'm thinking that, if you're doing a strategy around your program and you're like, okay, I'm going to need, capacity building funds to kind of understand how to build my program, which is more technical type of part, right? You're evaluating maybe. There's another grant that's going to help you acquire the equipment and maybe pay for some staff time and maybe some procurement, or maybe there's a grant specifically for procurement to buy from local farmers or something like that, right? So your strategy around funding is kind of map out this plan and how you're going to get to your end goal, which is launching a mobile market. And also, it's also the strategy on how you're going to be sustainable in the long run as well. So that's
That is
part
correct.
of the appeal, right, to the funder.
Exactly. That is very important to write a compelling proposal as well.
And when it comes to matching grants, I mean, this is something we see often, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's more typical. I typically see it on the government side, and I believe they want to make sure that you are being financially responsible with the funding that is granted to you or awarded to you, rather. And they want to make sure that you are building a sustainable plan in order to keep that funding going, especially if you have a multi-year funded award. So they just want to make sure that you're being fiscally responsible as well as meeting those reporting requirements, and those are one of those requirements.
And you would see maybe what, 25%, 50% in that range in the.
So, as far as securing funding for this initiative and those for food deserts and just uh, supporting the cost of the people in the community, I see it a lot less for
Mm.
having to have one-to-one matches on dollar amounts or in-kind matches. So I'm happy to report that I've come across it probably once or twice. The majority of the grants that I've found for the research that I've done for the organizations we have worked with, I think it has come up once or twice.
So
It's
depending
pretty
on
good
how,
numbers.
which is really good, right? So
Yeah, it's
so
fantastic.
depending if the government is aligned and motivated to do this, then the barriers will be less, I guess is kind of
That's
the
correct.
takeaway. And also from the funder's perspective, if when you put money down on this, or you're able to get your community to, put their money where they want to see impact, and
Exactly.
you're coming in, you're like, listen, I already have the community behind me.
Hmm.
I've gathered some funding, a bit of, so that goes a long way. And not only is it a requirement, it's a way for them to make sure that this is, wanted or needed by the community as well, right?
Exactly. Yes.
All right. So where do I find grants? So give us an overview.
So there are quite a few platforms that you can utilize. So a platform like grants.gov, they upload uh, government and state funded grants daily. And that is a free use portal. It can get a little complicated on that portal. So they do provide you with a technical assistant in which you can contact at the bottom of that page if you run into anything funny. But you can also obtain all documents needed for a grant, including the notice of funding opportunity, which outlines all of the information that you need to apply. There are other grant portals such as Candid or Foundation. Those are a pay or fee service. You do have to pay to utilize that platform, but it's also a great platform. It's not as user friendly, I would say, as grants.gov, but it does provide great information.
Okay.
The state funding portals are those portals that you go to from your state. Not all 50 states have them. I know that California does have a great grants portal. That's one of the states that utilizes one or has created one for its constituents, as well as New York City or New York, the state of New York. And then there are funder websites and newsletters in which you can go to philanthropic website, or you can go to a local community website, sign up for their newsletter, and they will alert you when new grants come in. And the Farmers Truck also has a newsletter in which we highlight grants of the month.
That's true. Yeah. I think that the Candid Foundation, really their main, why you pay for these platforms is they're monitoring all these other funders' website, these philanthropic effort, and making sure that's up to date, right? So there's value in both. There's opportunities in both. Both kind of have,
Absolutely.
definitely better if it's free, but if you need a little help, that can help. All right. So I guess it's the recommendation here for those looking to launch a program is to investigate what their state is offering and looking at the philanthropic activities that happens in their state and their county and see who would be the best aligned to kind of help you with that, and then subscribe to their newsletter and just keep tab on it, right? So if you're not using Foundation or Candid as a tool, then that's a way to do it for free.
And usually on on the state funding portals, there is a grant project or program manager for the state, and which you can contact them, email them with any necessary questions. They can help you secure funding. So that's a great avenue as well.
Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to talk a bit about the lingo. So for those who've never written a grant, there's a lot of lingo in there, right?
Mm.
So we're going to go a bit of an overview for those who've wrote grant before. This is going to be familiar to you, but so Portia, kind of run us through these kind of big words and what they really mean at the end, and how do you kind of tackle or see that? So
Yeah, certainly. So eligibility criteria. Are you a good fit for this grant? Before you invest time writing a grant, you do need to make sure you are actually qualified. There are far too many organizations that waste hours and hours applying for grants that just don't align with their structure, mission, or location. So that is your first preliminary action, is to make sure you qualify for that grant. And if not, if you don't qualify, make sure you are in a partnership with an organization that does.
Right.
And
Well,
when I'm doing my grant research, that is my first step.
well, I mean, that's the end of the day. You don't want to waste like you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, right? So you have to, your best chance is not necessarily to write the grant. Writing a grant is not that complex. It's to make sure that you fit the best. Like
Right.
you're the missing shoe, or I guess, or you know. So letter of intent, what is that all about?
So the letter of intent is your first impression. So think of it as your first date. What you would be including in your LOI would be a brief introduction about your organization's mission and work, and make sure you don't have to word for word align with the funders' initiatives. Just make sure that, like, walk back to eligibility, that you are on the same line of mission. Make sure that you provide a summary of your project and why it aligns with the funder's priority.
And I mean, not all the funds are asking for a letter of intent, right?
That's correct.
But it is kind of your pitch. It's your elevator pitch,
It
right?
is your elevator pitch. That is 100% correct. And I've seen an ask for an LOI probably about 50% of the time in my founding findings, whether they were a good fit for the client or not. I see it quite often.
And you know, if you wear the shoe of a funder, that's a great way to see, you know, from the get-go if this is going to work out or not, right? So instead of going
Exactly.
through the entire proposal and the budget and all that stuff, like just give me a little taste of what you're trying to do here, and I'll tell you if this is going to go forward. So you have to put, you know, it's your first date, you know, shave up, put some perfume on, you know.
Exactly. And just a heads up, typically when they ask for an LOI, if that's a requirement, you're unaware of how much funding is actually available. So it kind of is a shot in the dark, but don't let that discourage you.
Yeah, I mean, just if there's an opportunity, you know, let's say like Wayne Gretzky, every shot you don't do is an opportunity you miss or something like that. I forget what it is, but or is it Michael
Exactly.
Scott? It might be Michael Scott's quote.
It might be.
All right, let's talk about the narrative and the justification behind that. So, like, how, you know, like you need to structure this as a story that's easy to kind of consume, right?
That's correct. And you need to explain why you need the dollar amount. So think of your entire initiative, think of all of the operating costs, think of the marketing costs. You have to make sure you put all of that information on to justify what your budget is.
So, pretty straightforward. Matching funds, we kind of covered that, right? So it's really the depending on the grant, which seems to be less often in the world we're in. Some have more of that requirements, I guess, depending on the space they're in. But
Right.
so matching funds, I guess it's just you need to put up some money to participate, I guess.
And if you'd like, I can discuss the types of matching fund requirements.
Sure,
Some people,
sure. Yeah.
okay, so we have like a one-to-one match. You typically raise those funds and it's equal to the grant amount that you're requesting. You also have a cash match, and you need actual financial contributions from other sources, and those can be from angel investors or private sources. And you also have the opportunity, or they may require you to have specifically an in-kind match. So that could be donated goods, volunteer time, or services that can count towards that match
The,
contribution.
the in-kind donation is really interesting.
Yeah, that's always been the one of those things that requires a lengthier discussion and reporting requirements around that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
what qualifies as an in-kind donation? But if you're a nonprofit, you know, your time, the
exactly.
volunteers giving time, the
Yes,
donations you get could all kind of potentially be part of that. So,
that is correct.
removing a barrier out of that matching fund potentially for nonprofits. Deliverables. What are we talking about?
Yeah, so deliverables are those specific key points that need to be made in order to make sure you're hitting the requirements of your funding sources. Your funding sources requirements. So, did you meet 50% of your goal in the first fiscal year that we allotted this funding or awarded this funding to you? So, they can vary depending on each organization or funding source.
So it's essentially like you identify, and it's usually written
Very,
direct. This
exactly,
is what I
very
want you
clear.
to hit, and if you don't
Yes,
hit that, see you later.
yes, you can
Um,
face varying levels of penalization.
yeah, and it's a point at the end, right? So they kind of have a point system that, kind of at the end of the day makes a winner or a loser for that.
That is
Um,
correct.
Sustainability, really important word, but you have to kind of show that what you're proposing has legs to run with, right?
Exactly. Yes, that's it. That's pretty much the wrapped up information of that. You have to make sure. Um, Basically, is the funder wasting their money and time? Is this something that has longevity? Just like you would like to see this initiative grow. They would like to see their dollars grow. So we need to make sure that we're on par with the sustainability plan and that we keep the program going. That is the goal of this to eradicate the need for hunger. So
I mean, it's music to the ears of the funder. If you're able to multiply their money, if you're able to stretch their money, if this one-time investment from them will result in a much more sustainable program. I guess I'll put that on the people looking to do a mobile market and how to fund this.
right,
When you're thinking about your model, how do you make a sustainable model? And there's a need for emergency food assistance. Clearly, there's a need to move food waste and that are going to waste that are still very much edible to the communities who need it. There's all kinds of needs, but a lot of funders will still be like, okay, and how do you support this? Like what, how, so you have to think about that. What's the sustainability plan? Very, very important. And that will shape how your program will behave and work. And we do have a mobile market university, by the way. People are welcome to go check it out. It's on our website. Yeah, so I'll put the link maybe later.
definitely a
Hmm.
great resource.
And we're still building on that. So any feedback, there's a comment section underneath. You guys are welcome to chime in and let us know if we're, out of the woods or, we're making sense. So we're looking for your feedback. All right, so let's talk about, why applications get rejected. So, like, what do you hear, Portia?
Yeah, so typically it is weak alignment. Going back to the eligibility, make sure you are eligible for that grant and that what the funding source is looking for or their missions, do they align with what your organization brings to the table? So that is number one and key to make sure that you are in alignment.
And then measurable outcomes. I mean, that's
Correct. So as we stated before, we you would need to make sure you have a full and clear budget plan. Make sure you understand the cost of your staff. Make sure you understand the cost of produce. Make sure you understand the cost to fuel the farmer's truck. All of that information needs to be delineated, and we need it down to the dollar and down to the cent to make sure that we are on the same page and you're asking for exactly what you need.
and so as far as measurable outcomes, how, let's think about can I put like the amount of families I'm serving, the amount of,
Yes, absolutely. Um you can certainly put I would love to I would like to meet the mark of serving 50,000 individuals in the next 5 years.
and so kind of giving yourself a goalpost basically.
Exactly.
And it needs to make sense with the
And be
mission you're on
realistic.
and be
Yes,
realistic, right? So
absolutely.
there's some stuff that's very difficult to measure, right? We talk to a lot of programs and measuring the fruits and vegetable intake at the family level, unless you're like hanging out at their home and watching them eat, it's kind of difficult to say if they're eating what they're buying, but it's a good assumption to make that, if they're buying some stuff, they most likely eat some of them. So I guess be fair to yourself when you're setting up measurables, and something that is achievable, right? Smart goals, and something you can build upon because, at one point you will meet your goal, and maybe for you to expand your program, you'll go back to that same funder and be like, listen, you gave me money this time. Look at the impact I've had. The measurements I was proposing, I've knocked it off the park. Now I need to scale this. This is really important. And you have the conversation and the pieces, the data to prove it, right? So
And it helps you possibly secure funding for next year if you make those measurable goals.
smart goals, right? Yeah.
Absolutely smart goals.
Which kind of goes in line with poor budget planning. So, I mean, it needs to be clear that, and that's where the sustainability strategy kind of goes all in hand. So, how do you measure your success? It's not like, you're not necessarily, if you're a for-profit company, you're just, how much money am I making? Like, what's my net profit? But really, most of the people we work with, they're in to do community food access programs, and this is bigger than just, selling food. Although selling food brings another aspect, which is a dignified shopping experience, which a lot of programs, and this is what we kind of preach in our mobile market university. Um, but there's a space for all kinds of programs. There's a lot of needs, right? So if you're going to give away food, then your measurable is most likely the amount of food you're giving away, the quality of the food you're giving away, and maybe you can also measure the amount of people that shows up at your market. So you kind of give an overview of the impact. And specifically, if you're able to say, I'm parking right here, and this area is considered a food desert or a low access, low income area that needs access. All right, so let's go to the next slide, which is really, yeah, how do you win at this? Like, what's the win? So make your proposal stand out. Portia.
Yeah, so how to tell a compelling story. So, the majority of you that I've worked with, if you're on this call, I have gone to your website, I've read your company profile, and it tells me your mission statement. In the same way that you are speaking to your customers, you want to speak to this proposed funding source. You want to let them know everything that you are about, what moves you in this initiative, what moves you in your work in your organization and those that work with you. You want to tell that entire story, and you want to make sure it aligns with their mission as well. Sometimes it may take a little persuasive writing, and we're not saying to lie about anything at all. You just want to make sure you are a one-to-one match to the funder that would love to give you an award because you're the right fit.
So your story should be compelling because it's the mission of the company or your organization to do food access programs, and a mobile market will like kind of propulse or help you get closer to your goal. Clear and concise is, it's about timing and understanding how to write these things so they're compelling and clear and concise, and that's where Portia shines. So, even if you have the intent on writing your own grant, Portia can help you revise it, make sure that it is aligned, make sure that you're not missing anything. So there's ways for us to help more than just writing the grant. We can like coach you. We can like we're open to anything. At the end of the day, we're here to remove barriers for you to do this critical work in your community.
Absolutely. We want this to be as easy as possible and make sure it aligns with all of our missions. Also, so that goes into making sure that you also have strong supporting data. We were just discussing measurable outcomes. So you want to make sure you can prove or provide any of the information that is necessary to support your funding ask and your funding need.
Basically, maybe a needs assessment in the community. Like you're like, okay,
Absolutely.
what's happening in community? Who's doing what? Where is the gap that I can come in? So you're already positioned. There's a challenge in my community, and I understand what's happening. And then also in my community, there's X amount of percentage that are, food insecure, and X amount of families that are living in underserved communities. And so you paint a picture at the end of the day, right? There's the problem I'm trying to fix. And the better your data, the more compelling it is. And then highlight collaboration. I think that's a big one.
Such a big one. So, and we have already spoken about how there are many grants that are available to only nonprofits, and there are very few or less for-profit opportunities. So this is a place where you could collaborate and with other community leaders that are especially nonprofit institutions, and you can highlight how well you have worked together and how well that you have partnered on the same initiatives.
I mean, how compelling it is if the main actors in your community, the main community leaders who do similar work, food access or health or community health, vouch for you,
Right.
puts their name down in your application saying, or a letter of support that's attached to your application, right? It might be that. So, all right, let's talk about the nonprofit partnerships game changer. So this is something we're excited about because just like we were talking about, um, being collaborative in general just brings you more opportunities. Portia.
Yes, so it gives you an opportunity to build a stronger proposal back to those measurable outcomes. If you have two community institutions that have been serving the community on two separate ends, you come together, you join forces, and then you ask for the same funding together, and you can eradicate the food deserts that a lot of you are experiencing, especially in rural areas. So I think it is definitely the great and the best way to go to obtain larger amounts of funding, especially.
Like for example, a farmer, which we have a lot of them who reaches out because
Correct.
they wanna share their harvest with the community. Maybe you can talk to your food bank, or maybe it's your local food hub. Their local food hubs are usually nonprofit, and their mission is quite aligned with this. So, finding the right partner is also making sure that they're aligned with what you're trying to do. And obviously, this is where the fiscal sponsorship comes in. So they are the one applying for the grant. You're supporting them through that, but you have a role in this equation, whether you may be operating the truck, maybe you take the mobile market once a couple times a week, and the other couple times is the food hub that uses it. So there's different ways to leverage that. But it brings you more opportunities, or I guess more chances on your side because you're collectively kind of proposing this.
Absolutely.
And then resource sharing is really what we're talking about, right? So maybe there's ways for the nonprofit that's aligned with this type of work and say, you know what? Not only will we apply for this funding, but we also have this funding that came through, which aligns really well with this. So we can like maybe put a staff a couple of days a week on this to help you aggregate food, talk with farmers. There's so many different things.
So many different options and just tailorable to what you're looking for and what your community need is.
So I guess the call to action here for those who are for profit, the farmers, the wholesalers, those who, have a hard time finding grants for this type of work, partner with your local nonprofit. Call your food bank. Call your local food hub. They want partnerships. They're most of them have more need than they can possibly service. So the more people around the table, the better.
And if you need help finding any of your local nonprofits, you can utilize the commerce websites for your state, and you can find an entire list, and you can just either email or call, and that's a great resource to use as well.
Yeah, bring them up to coffee. Go volunteer.
Absolutely.
Go volunteer. Go to hang out with them. See what it's all about, right? All right, so we do a free grant search. This is something that has been really popular because it's something that's not too hard for us to do. Portia does all the work, really. But at the end of the day, we're trying to show uh, potential programs that there is opportunities, that there is funding for this, and quite a bit. So, Portia, maybe run us through real quick. What's our
Yeah,
process?
certainly. So I receive an intake form that typically has an organization that would be a for or a nonprofit. Starting from that information, I go back to eligibility. So that's my first determination at that point is what are you eligible for? Just a snapshot of all of the information that you filled in. Then I go through my various channels to type in your criteria, do a database search, and find those essentially the funding sources that align with your mission and that are offering dollar for dollar what it is that you need to support purchasing a farmer's truck, sustaining a farmer's truck, filling it with food, all of the things that you need from that aspect. And if we don't make it right the first time, we can discuss what the next options are to tailor it to your needs if for some reason something went wrong there. But we're pretty flexible.
And one thing I really like, Portia, is that you identify the top five, which is the best opportunity that you can find.
Correct.
You also explain why that is, right? Sometimes it's hard to understand why do we fit here, but you go through the grant, you read through it, you understand how they're trying to position this, and so you give us a blurb, and you give people an estimate on the type, the effort it is for you to write this for them,
That
and
is correct.
we have a really affordable grant writing. Like it's accessible for nonprofits, and
Absolutely.
we don't take any percentage of what we raise, right? So this is a big deal. Like a lot of grant writers do take a bit of a percentage or whatever. So this, it's a tailored to the nonprofits who are trying to do this, really. All right. Well, anyways, by the way, there's the scan at the bottom of you probably have noticed. But yeah, scan away, fill up that form, take your time. Maybe you don't have all the answers right now. That's okay. Fill it up. Somebody will be in touch with you and, fill up the blanks. Or if it's good to go, Portia will get cracking and try to find some grants for you.
Absolutely. And just for those of you out there that are unaware of how to use a QR code, you just open up your camera on your phone and then you can just scan it right from the screen. So, yeah, I just have run into quite a few folks that don't know how to do it. So,
I, and by the way, we'll also send an email with the recording and a link to that and all that stuff. So you'll get all that information most likely tomorrow, I believe. All right. Well, we're about 40 minutes in. We have about 20 minutes left. Basil, if you want to join us real quick on the audio, I believe.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am here.
All right.
We do have a few questions here. I'll shoot at you guys, and I'll also drop in some resources for them, some of the stuff that Fred and Portia will talk about. So, that this is the time to submit your questions if anyone has questions. That's still on the chat. But we'll start with a question from Doreen. Would the nonprofit you partner with have to be in the same town, or can it be in the same region?
I can take that one. So it doesn't necessarily have to be within the same town or region, but it depends on the notice of funding opportunity. So what the funder is asking for. They do list the criteria there, so that it would just depend on the funding opportunity, and we can help you determine that information.
Okay, perfect. Next question from Rachel. Does the Farmers Truck offer consultation, technical assistance on best practices for running a mobile market? I think that's for you, Fred.
Yeah. So we have a mobile market university that's online, accessible. It's free. So if you go to community.farmerstruck.com, so community.farmerstruck.com. That's our community website. You'll have all the modules there to learn about the mobile markets, their operation, to do needs assessment, the budgeting, all that stuff. So it's all there. There's still a module missing, so we're working on that. And as far as doing technical consulting, so we will take your call anytime, any day, if you have any challenge whatsoever, if you want to bounce off ideas. But if you want to hire someone to help you get through this, kind of coach you through this, we do partner with Best Route. They're based in Pennsylvania. They've operated a mobile market in the past. Did a webinar with Max not too long ago, I guess, late last year. So they're the one who we partner with. So they're called Best Route.
Awesome. And Rachel, I did drop in the link for that in the chat in your answer there for you. So just you can access it easily there. All right. Next question we have from Daniela. Hi, I'm joining from the Caribbean. Hello from the Caribbean. And would love an opportunity to implement this initiative of Farmers Truck to support my local food pantry. Have you guys ever thought about supporting outside of the US?
So my answer is yes. If we can help you, we'll do it. Have I done specifically work in Trinidad and Tobago? No. So I don't know what the requirements are when it comes to vehicles or to ship a vehicle there. There's definitely, I mean, starting a mobile market is really just a tent and table if you think about it. Like it does not have to be complicated, right? So I would say that if you're interested in doing this with your community, start small. Start with what's available in your community. Maybe somebody has a trailer they can retrofit for you with like some shelving or something like that. Keep it simple. But it is something that we would love to. I'd love to do this all around the world, to be honest. It's just we need to eat what we can. As we're a small team, so and grow as fast as we can. But definitely with something. Anyways, please reach out. I might be able to me and Portia might be able to find something for you. But it would be new to me.
Yeah, and Daniela, I will include on the next answer here. I'll include a meeting link. You can book a meeting with our team to kind of discuss more details when the time comes. Okay, next question I have from Zayda. Are we getting this presentation emailed to us? I'll answer that one. Yes, we will be sending out our newsletter. I believe you're all a part of our marketing contacts. If you're not, it will be on our webinar page. And we will be uploading it to YouTube. And yeah, we will email you the recording for sure. So no worries about that. So that's all set. Next question from Alex. Are there state requirements and documentation needed to operate a mobile market? For example, business certificates, serve safe certification. They are in East Boston, Massachusetts.
So for sure, there's requirements, whether it is, mobile, retail, requirements. Every state is different and every county applies their requirements with some nuance. For example, for SNAP, if you want to accept SNAP, it's complicated. And my understanding of the complication is if you have multiple location, that seems to be a big no-no for the program. But some states and counties are able to kind of help with that. So it's the best thing really is if you're thinking about doing this, we would connect you with a mobile market operating in your state, and they can kind of hopefully give you an overview of how they went at it themselves.
And correct me if I'm wrong, we have a few trucks in that region as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Massachusetts, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there is definitely examples to see. All right. Next question I have here. Sorry. Uh, all right, from Carlos. Presuming all the ducks are in order, what is the typical lead time to an answer? I'm guessing that relates to a for the grants. So Portia, answer time.
Lead time for an answer, if you've secured funding or not. So typically, not typically, we will submit your grant writing proposal by the deadline. In some instances, the um, funding source will let you know when their next meeting will be to go through all of the grants to determine who they will be sending out award letters to. And that is at that point in time, it is at the hand of the funder. I at times that they will send out an email request for the documentation or information, but otherwise it is a waiting process to see if we initially secured funding or not. But we will do everything on our end to make sure that your application or proposal is submitted with all of the necessary qualifying documentation and information.
And just a quick note on that too is like we know that sometimes the funder says, we'll have the awards at that date,
Right,
but
right.
but we've seen, some of them had to drag this along quite a bit because they had too many requests and they just were overwhelmed with, the California Healthy Store Refrigeration Grant, for example, had, I think 10x what the budget was as applications. So you can imagine the team how swamped they were trying to deliver. And then yeah, that's kind of my note. So,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
sometimes you get as many as 100 submissions, and there may be three people on the reviewing team. Sometimes you get thousands and it's the same three in the same room. So we try to give them grace, and they'll reach out when they're done with the elimination process, and let us know if we obtain the award or not.
For sure. Okay, we still have 14 questions here, so
All right.
let's try to answer some questions here. All right, so sh next question from Shannon. Does this model work specifically with the farmers market or is it adaptable? I have a sit-in mobile lounge that we intend to sell coffee, but also run community program.
So it's more specifically from, well, our intent as a social enterprise is to increase fresh food access. So what's missing in communities that has lost their grocery store or, doesn't have a grocery store, the shelf stable stuff is easy to find. You'll have a corner store with that, but it's really the fresh food. And that's our mission is to make sure that people living in these communities have an easy yes. So you can take your community, I guess your sit-in mobile lounge with and combine that with a community program. We've seen some programs, they run a farmer's truck and they'll run a food truck and they'll basically cook with whatever's in season that's on the farmer's truck with the food truck and get people to taste and see and what you can do. So it's kind of an interactive health road show, if you will. And your program could be something like that, I'm thinking. So,
Whoops, sorry, was muted. Next one from Selam. Will you please send all the links in the chat with the recording? Yeah, the recording will be sent out but we do have the link to book a meeting. If you go some of the answered questions, they have other links like to our community learning platform, so on and so on. Next one from Johannan. Would like to provide a farmer's truck for my community that I work for. How does it work with a nonprofit community school? I think that is a bit more of a specific question. You might want to book a meeting so we can kind of discuss that a bit more in detail. But
yeah.
Fred, any thoughts on that?
Well, there is some states that have specific farm to schools programs, so literacy with kids and all that stuff, which is something we hold dear to our heart, and which we'll have another webinar, and we'll have our next webinar will be around pediatric, making food literacy fun for kids. But anyways, definitely some funds available, depends on your state. So please reach out and we can do some digging for you.
All right, next question from Daniela. Okay, great. This would be a first, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys. We are too, Daniela. Thank
Awesome.
you. Next up, Carlos, ideas for sourcing in-house production versus hybrid. I'm not exactly sure what the question here is,
Well,
Carlos.
if
Yeah,
Carlos,
go
I believe, is a farmer that I've talked to. So hi, Carlos. Good to see you. Happy to have you on the webinar. Um, your strategy when it comes to serving the community is to be able to put together a full plate. So that's the strategy. So you have to walk backwards from what the community needs, and usually they want, fruits and vegetable, some protein, maybe some dry goods, maybe some pasta, some bread, maybe some rice, maybe beans, depending on what you want to bring in the community you're serving. But really, what people are thinking when they come to the mobile market is like, can I do my shopping here, or should I stop here first and then go to the grocery store? You want to create an experience where they can shop everything they need there, but it does, you can't have a million SKUs at the same time, right? A million different products. Have to be strategic about what you offer, but really you want people to feel like they can get a full plate. That's really the goal.
Okay, great. Thanks, Carlos. Next question I have is from Holly. Could we use the grant funds for food if we plan to sell the food, hopefully to offset the cost for the customer, for example, charge less than we paid? This is a great question, Fred. I'll give you that.
Yeah, so I don't know that it depends on the grants. So some grants they will not allow you to fund. Some states they will not allow you to sell donated food, and a grant might be considered donated. So it really depends on the grants. It depends on your situation. If your state allows that, and if the grant allows that, the next question I would ask myself is this sustainable?
For sure.
because the
Um,
sustainability plan is important, right? So, but there's some opportunities, I think. So,
Awesome. And just around procurement, our last webinar was around procurement. There might be some answers in there too. I highly encourage everyone to watch it. Um, okay, I'm gonna go back to one of the questions that were asked earlier, that I think everyone kind of wants an answer for before I continue with the rest. But I'll go to that question. Give me one second. Okay, can you talk more about government grants and what you're hearing about availability, particularly in the current political climate? I think that's on everyone's mind, and I think your 2 cents would go a long way, guys.
well, I mean, Portia, we've discussed this together, and we knew this coming. So,
Absolutely.
um, I guess for my take on it, is that the work that you all do and the other nonprofits is important work. So I think this is temporary. I think this is my gut feeling. This is temporary, and it's just to realign things so it meets their political objectives and their mandates. So, but otherwise, I mean, the fund needs to go. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done, and it's not getting better necessarily as far as food access goes. But Portia, what's your take?
Yeah, so presently what we're doing is monitoring all information as everyone else on this call, I believe, is as well. We are looking at the USDA websites. We are just watching any conferences or information that is given from the White House. So what we're doing is just taking heed and pivoting if we need to, focusing on some of those private foundations that have available funding and some of those other philanthropic um, uh, options that are still handing out funding as well.
Yeah, and I'll just plug in our newsletter here. We do share a grant of the month in our newsletter, and this month obviously we'll be focusing more on private grants just because of the uncertainty that's hovering over us. So look out for that. That will be coming to your inbox next week, and if you're not subscribed, please do. All right. Next up, question from Shirley. In Louisiana, it's easy to get onto Snap. I'm not sure if that's a question or a statement, but I believe we do have a program in Louisiana, Fred.
Uh, yes, we do, and I mean, I'm not sure if I believe they do accept SNAP. Some states it's easier, some states it's harder. It really depends. I mean, there needs to be some work done on that front to, enable mobile markets to do the work they need to do. And SNAP is a critical piece of that. There's a lot of conversation around SNAP and potential funding issues or cuts or whatever. But anyways, let's put some positive energy in the universe, I
For
think.
sure. I think Kevin was answering this question as well. It can take up to 3 months or so to get approved from accepting SNAP based on my work with food banks and pantries. Thank you, Kevin. Uh, Sorry, next up we have another question from Kevin actually. Once a location is approved and an order submitted to the farmer's truck, what is the lead time range for completed and delivered truck? Great question, Fred.
9 to 12 months. We're working to make it better. We're a small organization doing custom vehicles. We don't have the benefit of the economy of scale and, having millions of dollars to do everything we would wish to do. So we have to do what we have. And so this right now it's 9 to 12 months, but we're working to make things better. And I usually like to under promise and over deliver. That's why I'm kind of giving you a 9 to 12 months. We're going to do better than that, but that's what it is for now.
And being small, that means you get white glove service. So
I have to. Yeah.
awesome. Thanks, Kevin. Next up we have John. John asks, do you have any trucks in Illinois? Grants one in Illinois, and which one?
We do have some trucks in Illinois, I believe, but I mean, reach out and we can connect you. I'm not sure which grant they got specifically, but please reach out. We can find out for you. And if you're in Illinois and are looking for, to understand or spend time with a mobile market or volunteer on a mobile market to understand what it's all about, then, we'll connect you and make that happen. So,
And I just plugged in our meeting link on your answer there. So feel free to book a meeting to talk a bit more in detail. Next question. Is there assistance support for Hawaii? I know Fred would love to answer that question.
yeah, I love Hawaii. Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's no barrier to our mission, which is the great thing about our mission. It's going to fuel us for years to come. But yeah, we do some work in Hawaii, specifically with the amazing people at, and I'm going to butcher this, Kokokahili community in Honolulu. Um, they do mobile markets for their community, and we also have another one with Cheryl. Anyway, so there's definitely some needs in Hawaii, and yes, we can help. So.
Okay, great. Next question from Rachel. I'm sorry if you already covered this, but does this all apply to free markets like mobile food pantry truck?
So there's definitely some grants for that. But based on what we were discussing earlier, your strategic plan to be sustainable is an important piece of this, right? So some grants will be, for moving food around to those who need it, and it will be free, it's logistical equipment and things like that. But um, maybe more opportunities for those who have a sustainability plan, I guess.
We do have partners that have that model, so just putting it out there. So um,
There's a need for it. There's a need for it for sure. So sometimes it's maybe the city that helps you with it. Sometimes it's, there's all kinds of different community partners that would be delighted to partner with you and help you get this done. You just need to knock on the right door and get these partnerships. And if you're going to go and distribute free food around, there's funds for that. So, yeah.
great. Thank you. Bridget, I jumped into the webinar a bit late. I think there will be a recording. Yes, there will be a recording. Thank you, Bridget. Question from Nick. Are you aware of grants and funds available specifically for staffing? We already have a mobile pantry and outfitted trailer with produce, shelving, and cooler. We are fully choice
The
and going
choice model.
choice model. Okay. We are a ministry and a church, simply don't have the staffing or capacity to do that, even though we know the need is great.
Portia.
So yeah, there are grants that are available for funding. I'm not sure if they're, I'm sorry, available for staffing. I'm not sure off the top of my head which ones are available, but I know that I've read quite a few this week. So if you could reach out, given the link, is Basil, are you handing out a link?
Yes, a link
Okay.
for booking a meeting with us, correct?
Yes, we can discuss that funding need. But yes, I have seen grants that are available specifically for staffing.
Yep. Next question. We already have a truck. What can you offer us? I'll answer that. Maybe another truck, maybe some guidance, support on how to run the program too.
Well, so that if you've already, and this is, I believe, a Rhonda, well, if
Dan.
I think this is the Rhonda that I think about, please reach out. I mean, I would love to hear what your plans are and how we can support you. If you're looking for more funding to do your work, then we can definitely take a look with Portia. If you're looking for coaching or advice, I can definitely help you with that one-on-one. If you're looking for ongoing support, there's Best Route that we partner with that can help out as well. There's many different ways, and right now we're really trying to figure out what else can we build? What else can we build? What else can we move out of the way so that it makes it easy for you to do your program, makes it easy for you to report back to the funder. It just, basically what can we do to make you a better mobile market and effective program? So
Sure.
please reach out.
All right. Next question. This is about a recording. Yes, there will be a recording. I repeat, there will be a recording. Okay. Another question from Kevin at Foodbridge, fruitbridge.com. We look forward to partnering with you and continue to bring more food banks and pantries online and encouraging mobile. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Awesome, Kevin. Reach out. Love to talk to you.
Bridget, do you have a sample logic model? A sample logic model or a simple it's a sample.
Logistics?
Do you have a sample logic model? Not entirely sure if you're familiar.
Well, Bridget, maybe if you go on our website, so community.farmerstruck.com, you'll see we have a ton of module. There's a search bar. You can query any type of keywords, and you'll find some information, most likely on logistics, procurement, things like that, if that's what you're referring to. If that's not what you're referring to and you want something more specific, please reach out. I'll try to answer it as best as I can.
Awesome. And I'll plug in the community learning platform for everyone in the chat here as well. I know you guys can't chat yourself, but you should be able to see the chat function. All right. Next up, thank you, Bridget. Kevin, Kevin again. There are community partners like WellCare, etc., that have funding for staffing. Thank you, Kevin. Kevin should join our next webinar. Um, Perfect. Thanks, Kevin. Next question from Caitlin. How do most grant organizations specifically define a food desert? Is it determined by census data?
And I can answer that. Yes, it is. That is one of the determinations. But by definition, a food desert is an area that has limited access to food that is plentiful and affordable. And it could be either in an urban setting or in a rural setting. And I know on the USDA.gov website, there is actually a rural GPS mapping system. You can plug in an address. It could be an address of a specific entity or just an area, and it will actually tell you if you qualify for some of those grants.
Also, if I'm not mistaken, the rural areas is a 10-mile radius or something like that. So if the food source near you is a 10-mile, I think it's 10 mile. And
I think
then
it's 10 miles as well.
yeah, and then in an urban setting is 1 mile. So if you're not at walking distance from a grocery store within a mile and you live in an urban area, you live in a food desert.
Awesome. Down to the last couple of questions. Guys, we are still going for another 9 minutes. So if anyone has any other questions, then now is the time to plug them in. Moving to Caitlin's questions. How do most grant organizations oh, this is the one
Cover
we
that one.
answered. I apologize. Next one is from Hester. Do you have ideas for applying for stationary refrigeration to go with the farmer's truck?
Well, so so when the grant offers you an opportunity to buy, a capital asset, and your message or your story, and if you're going to operate a mobile market, you will need refrigerated storage. The easiest way is to find a local refrigerated space that you can rent individual pallets and things like that, which is more cost effective to just, you have a refrigerated space for you. That's not always available. And so sometimes people kind of hack together like a cool bot, and some farmers they do that. But definitely, if it's part of your plan, you're like, for me to operate this, I need a farmer's truck, I need a walk-in fridge, I need this, I need that, and the grant allows for it, and there's money for it. Why not?
I also just sent a link that Kevin provided. It is, I think, the map search function for food deserts. So thanks again, Kevin.
Look at all the community partnership that is going on in the chat in the Q&A. This is awesome.
That's right. For sure.
Kevin, I see you're providing a couple more links. I will share them in here in the chat. Everyone should be able to access the chat. Thanks, Kevin. And then I think, oh, last question we have here is from Omar. As a nonprofit, can I do anything to speed up the grant writing and submission process to secure my funds faster?
So, Omar, there's nothing that we can do to secure your funds faster, but from my end of the work of the grant writing and research, we are making sure that we are adhering to submission deadlines. We will have all documentation, all of our ducks in a row, and we will submit by that deadline. And then there is the waiting game. We kind of touched on this earlier in the call. We would have to just wait until the funding source releases the funds and the funding information to let us know if we were awarded the grant or not. And then we determine on what our next steps would be to either apply for another grant or we review the information of the grant that we were, or the funding source that we were denied by, to see what we need to submit another application if they allow us to.
Awesome.
So I
Sorry.
guess another thing is like, there's a deadline
Yeah,
and you need to be, don't give us this kind of deadline when there's a week left for us to put together a grant. That's this the recipe for disaster. We want to take time to revise it with you, make sure it's aligned, make sure that,
absolutely.
put your best chance on your side, right?
Hester, you are asking, you can't copy and paste the links. I am answering your question, which everyone should be able to see in the answered questions section. Um,
People can click
so
on the link. That's weird.
I think they can click on the link, but maybe not copy and paste. However, I am providing these links for you in your answer, which everyone should be able to access. Um, there you go. And then couple more or okay. Question from Amber. We have a truck operating in South Dakota looking to focus on self-sustainability. We have two freezers and a refrigerator, accepting SNAP, working with partners. We are a nonprofit. Thanks. Okay. This is just I signed up for the meeting. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Hester.
Thanks,
Thank
Amber.
you, everyone. I am going to wait one more minute here to see if there's any more questions that are going to come in. Otherwise, I'll let you do some final remarks there, Fred.
Yeah, okay. Just give me 1 second here. Share. Where's my freaking thing? Right there. There you go. All right. Whoops. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you. Thank you for all your questions. I hope this was informative, that we kind of give you a path to success to make this a reality. If you've been looking to do something like this in your community, we're here to help. Reach out. We'll guide you through from, knowing nothing about mobile markets to hopefully getting you started with a mobile market. And Portia is going to help out with finding some grants. And basically we'll keep building from there. But yeah, thank you for joining us, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
Thanks, Portia. Thanks, Fred. I will be pasting the meeting link one last time in the chat here. If you feel like you want any more information, you want to chat with us, Portia is our partner and also a part of our team. So please reach out and looking forward to hearing from everyone. Thank you, everyone.